How are you? Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks
for joining us. Are you familiar with how we work?
Yes.
So we've got the Good Money Guide phone, got your app on it with 10,000 virtual funds.
Fantastic.
We're going to drive around for 20 minutes. We're just going to have a chat about the markets, IG in general.
Yep.
And hopefully find out some interesting things about you. So where would you like to go? Where would you go usually at 2 o'clock on a Thursday?
I'd be in work. No, I think we'd go somewhere up towards maybe Farringdon. There's a nice fresh restaurant around there.
Okay, let's go out to Farringdon. So Chris, thanks for joining us. How long have you been with IG now?
I've been there about 14 years actually.
14 years.
Yeah.
Crikey. What's been the biggest change since you started there?
I think the way it's become so much more global and the way it's become a lot more popular. It was still relatively niche when I started, and then of course you've got the introduction of investments and ETFs and the managed portfolios that we've got, so it makes it more of a broader financial services firm.
It was very niche 15 years ago,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Quite hard to open an account as well. I think that was part of it.
Yes, the app was still relatively new. I think really the number of people trading the app was still quite low.
Yeah,
now
but
it's
just in
huge.
terms of like suitability and qualification criteria, that's
precisely, and that's moved on a lot, and it's improved a lot. Was in terms of the focus as well. Risk management, how we educate clients, and that's a big thing now, really, that more than it ever was.
Yeah, with a broader client base, you definitely need that. So let's just talk about some trades as we're just setting off. So what are you looking at?
I've got the DAX in front of me now because it's ECB day, of course.
Yeah.
So you've had Lagarde come out and say we're leaving rates unchanged. With the DAX, has taken that quite well because there's been that hint that they might think about cutting rates eventually.
Yeah.
So it's boosted the market. So, and the DAX is all-time highs or near as. So very strong performance, but I think on a short-term time frame. But we go with hopefully momentum keeps going.
Yeah, DAX has always been a great market.
Fantastic performer.
So what about DAX versus Euro stocks? What's your preference out of those two?
I think mainly DAX because the focus on the Germans. But actually, if you look at European stocks, of course, the CAC is an interesting one because luxury is such a big driver.
It's just gone through that.
I'm talking myself out of this trade right now. I should go just on the CAC instead. But so of course we could put the deal in. Risk management, of course, vital. So where are we? Let's go back to our chart.
Yeah, that's the important thing. Don't over leverage. You give yourself freedom to open up other positions.
Oh, exactly. And the flexibility really. Okay, so maybe stop down at 17,700. Fairly small because we're looking at short-term time frame. Let's do 150 points away. Yeah, that's nice. It's a bit of room to breathe. So we'll see where we end up with that one.
So how are you for hedging your positions? Do you like to just have outright positions, or do you like if you're trading the DAX, will you put on a hedge? If you're long the DAX, will you go short another indice to?
Yeah, I don't like to overcomplicate stuff. Really, I think someone once said if you want to hedge something, buy less of it or sell less of it. I think is the easiest way to do it because you end up with too many positions. So many people, I think, try and be too clever with this.
Yeah.
Really, and that's what catches them out. I mean, if it works, honestly, if it works for you, then fine. But I think it's better if you've got that one to keep an eye on. It's always too easy to end up. Before you know where you are, you've ended up with loads and loads of trades you never intended to. Really.
Yeah, and that's the danger. The scattergun approach of just hoping to get lucky. There is something to be said to it though, because I've always said, we quite often talk about this, is that it's not just getting into positions that is important. It's how you manage them.
Oh yes.
It's how you manage them afterwards.
And I think that's the thing we talk about a lot more, and we should talk about even more because that's almost opening and closing is the simple part of the process.
Yeah.
Really, it's especially when you've got stuff. If you've got stuff that if you get stopped out, it's fine. You thought something was going to happen, it didn't. That's how it goes. But it's when something moves in your favour and you think, oh my goodness, what do I want to do? Do I keep it going? Do I close it? And what tends to we see in how clients trade, we can see that data and we keep an eye on it, is okay, the main sin, and this is for investors as well as traders, is they all close out their positions too early.
Well, that's one of the core basic trading strategies, isn't it? Is run your wins, cut your losses.
And it sounds so easy and so obvious, but it's a lot harder to do in reality than it is.
I think when you just get so excited sometimes when you call the market right, you're like, I got to bank it. I got to bank it. And then, but conversely, you just get so blinded by losses when things go the wrong way, and there's nothing worse than chasing a loss.
No.
So what else are you looking at? So you've got the DAX open.
Well, we did DAX, so we've got that DAX trade going already, as you can see there. Which I was making a bit more than I was, and it's dropped back a tiny bit now. So there you go. The other one we've got today is dollar yen.
Yeah.
The Bank of Japan. Are they finally going to move out of negative rates? Big moment after 20, 30 years of negative rates.
Okay.
So that was down a lot today. It's at the beginning of a turn. It's always dangerous saying this is the beginning of a turn, but you've seen dollar yen rally a lot and then suddenly it starts to come off again.
Yeah, I always find the currency markets tricky. I'm not so good on the currencies. I'm more of an indices and equities.
I think it's a lot harder than people realise because you've got those two dynamics at play of, okay, it might impact this currency this way, but you've got the other side of the thing to consider.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's it. And it's a much more complicated market. There's so many economical factors that you need to understand that I think people
yeah, it's always the way, I think, really. It's really hard sometimes to judge the impact of a move because a lot of the time you're seeing markets pricing in stuff that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so what you're seeing is maybe not the reaction to the event, but the unwinding of positions. And it's almost, you're not trying to work out what you think will happen, but you have to work out what you think other people will think will happen.
Yeah. It's a psychological game as
yeah,
much
it
as,
is
as
very
much
much
as
so,
else.
I think.
What about equities? Do you have a job about in equities?
Yeah, I have been. I do a lot, certainly for investing on my own account, really.
Yeah. Well, anyone who's invested of late in anything has done very well. I think you would.
Yeah,
think
again,
it's
a timing thing, isn't it? Yeah.
So I didn't even look at your P&L. How far up or down?
We're down now about £1.70.
£1. Okay, that's
yeah. So it's just oscillating around.
That's not the end of the world. And what sort of margin are you utilising? Are you?
I think for our
plenty
DAX trade, we're keeping only about. I think we're using about. Well, even on this trade, of course, it's a very small amount, but it's about £3 which is quite a large amount of margin, really.
That's
for this one, so we should have cut that back a bit. But looking on the CFD, dollar yen, we might see it keep going down. So we could do a small amount.
What does the chart look like? Are you a chartist?
Yes, I'm not too into it, but certainly I think you need to look at chart to get a sense of where stuff is going.
Yeah, I think it's a good indication visually of whether or not something is priced in.
Yeah.
I think I've spent a career in technical analysis, and to be honest, I still don't really understand it. I still think there's I think it's a great tool, and there's certainly something in it. But I do think there's an element of rain making in TL, rain dancing in TA.
I think you've got to remember that it's not going to be a crystal ball.
Yeah.
And it's a guide to stop you. I think TA should be there to stop you doing silly things like buying a market that's clearly going down or selling one that's going up. I think it should sort of help confirm your understanding of where a market is going and not try and get too carried away, really.
Yeah. Particularly if something's overbought or oversold.
Yes, exactly.
I think they're two really good indicators that are worthwhile looking at. So, let's talk about your trading though. What's been your most memorable trades? Have you got any big wins or big losses that you remember?
When I started out years and years ago, and I was trading silver, and I shouldn't have been. The risk, you could do it on a smaller amount than you can now, not with IG, with somebody else. And I think it was a weekend where something happened globally, and it just shot up, and I was long. And before you knew it was happening, made loads. So I always remember that as a case of I was lucky, but I didn't know what I was doing.
Right place at the right time.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that for traders.
Some years, I think the end of 2017, when it was still going up and up and up, that's a great one because I was long indices.
Yeah.
And that worked out nicely because that was it was a quiet year, but it was a good year for markets just going higher, and it really sort of surged into the end of the year. I certainly remember that one.
What about the big losses though? Has there been a memory, or have we forgotten?
No. You remember the times when you fall into those traps of, as we were saying, trading too many markets, and you end up with too many trades on all at once. I think is always the big problem. You don't intend to get into this position before you know where you are. You've got sort of 6, 7, 8, 9 trades on in different markets. They're all moving differently, and you can't really work out what's actually happening. So and you don't think properly. You start to worry about the losses, and you end up just taking lots and lots of losing trades. When you should have the best thing to do is to step back and do less. Less is generally more.
Less
I
is
think,
more,
with it.
and sometimes there just isn't a trade in the market as well.
No.
You know, it's not something you have to do. You have to do every day. I mean, I'd say I don't trade. I don't trade the markets. I sort of trade things. You know, when you think something's about to happen, or you think something's not about to happen, it's worth taking a position on that. But yeah, I think trading for the sake of trading is.
Yeah, and that's the way it's often people fall into that trap, because you don't get I haven't got a view on this. I need to have a view. I need to be doing something.
Yeah.
But markets are 24 hours. There's always another day. There's always another thing you can be trading. But stick to what you know in many ways.
Stick to what you know, actually. And I mean, that's an ethos actually that's done well for a lot of investors. You know, if you're interested in a company or a brand, they're the ones to step into.
Yeah, if you can understand it and you know what it's doing, that helps really. You can see the appeal.
So how's P&L? How are we looking?
Do you know, I just looked at it. We were up £4, now we're down £7, so we're still hovering about flat.
Do you know, it's funny, I thought giving 10 grand in virtual funds would be a decent enough amount to either see some nice few £100 P&Ls one way or another, but actually people have been quite conservative. I thought because it's virtual money, I thought people would be going a bit sort of hell for leather and taking a few more punts.
I think, of course, the way, if you're trading on a retail account now, the amount of margin you use up as well, it does limit you in, which actually can be a very good thing, because you suddenly find that you can't be in too many trades all at once. Yeah, stuff's moving against me now, so maybe.
In fact, that's one of the biggest mistakes that all retail traders make, isn't it? Is over leverage.
Yes,
and
always. Yeah. You forget how quickly markets can move in both directions.
Do you know, I remember actually when they came out with the margin rate reductions. I think we were running a white label at the time. I think we had a London Capital Group white label, and of course all the brokers have always been our customers. So it was a bit of a shock. It was a bit of a shock to the system, I think, for everybody. But I think ultimately it's good for the retail. You know, for the retail punter, because if you are sophisticated enough to know what you're doing, you've always got the option to upgrade, haven't you?
Yes, exactly. You meet the criteria, then that's fine. You've got that ability, really.
So look, we're halfway through. You're about even. Let's talk about the app. How much do you trade on the IG app? Are you allowed to trade
IG
yourself?
No, we can't have an IG account. So we have. You can have other. You can trade on the. You can have a stockbroking account with IG.
Okay.
But no.
But you can't tap around there. What are your favourite features of the app? What do you think makes the app stand out above everyone else?
Well, the charting works really nicely. I like the fact you've got all these indicators to hand. It doesn't mean you have to use them, but it's relatively easy to do charting from the app, I think, particularly. The fact that you've got proper guaranteed stops in place, that's really, really good. You can activate them when you open a position. They pay a wide spread if the stop is hit, but that's so about it, really. And
actually, what's the spread with IG between spread betting customers and CFD customers in the UK? Do you see spread betting as quite rightly more popular than CFD trading in the UK?
Yeah.
Is it still the case?
Hugely more so. I'm not sure the exact percentage, but it's much more popular, really, as it makes sense to be, because of that tax-free element. From
our point of view, we see the demand for CFD trading much higher than spread betting. I mean, I've always spread betted and I always will. I think trading CFDs, if you're English, is daft, unless you're of a level where you need DMA or you can go offshore. But we certainly see much more. We certainly see much more search for people looking for CFD brokers in the UK from UK traffic as opposed to spread betting. I think maybe spread betting, I don't know, maybe people get confused about it, or just don't understand it, or it's not marketed in the same way as it used to be.
To an extent, maybe it's I don't know, it depends if you're more familiar with it across the globe. Maybe CFD more than you would spread betting. There's a certain element of the name. I mean, people look at it and think, oh, spread betting, but it's the same thing essentially. Yeah.
Well, I remember when all the financial spread bettors used to have sports books as well.
Yes.
And that's dying a death. It's a real shame though, because the only sports spread betting broker left is SpreadX. They just mopped up. What was the other one called? Sporting Index. And I remember I used to, even with IG 20 years ago, I used to, job about in the financial markets during the week and then bet on corners on the football on the weekend. That was great fun.
Yeah, and I think because when I started, we still had our sports division.
So have you been at IG your whole career?
Most of it. Yeah, I started out doing sort of stock market reporting, investment writing for a small company in the city, and then moved over to IG. Yeah,
I think they were my first account when I was 18, 19, something like that. I used to trade.
What made you get in it in the first place?
What? Trading?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm one of those people that's always, when I was a kid, I saw trading places and then thought, do you know what? I'd quite like to be a broker. That looks like a lot of fun. So I ended up getting an internship on NYMEX in New York. So that was my first job in 2000, and then I went back in 2021. So I was working on NYMEX during 9/11, and was in front of the towers when they came down, and then obviously came home after that and ended up working on the IPE. I think that's when I had my first IG account. Trading. It was actually trading the spread between Brent and crude. And
that's quite niche.
Yeah, it was very niche, but I suppose when you work on an oil floor, that
I suppose, yeah,
that makes sense. And back then there was some arbitrage opportunity between those two markets, but not really now. And then just FTSE 100 equities. But this is back in the day when like FTSE spreads were 10 points. It's all changed since then.
Yeah, and it's so much slicker now than it was.
And I remember your first dealing platform actually. I remember when it first came online, and I had incredibly slow laptop, and it was essentially like an MSN Messenger box, but you would push buy 10 FTSE, and you would feel as though it was an actual dealing ticket executing the order, but it would go through to a dealer, and then you'd get a sort of handwritten message back from a dealer going, "Thank you very much, your trade has been executed."
That's a different world.
On WAP-enabled mobile phones.
Yeah.
So 15 minutes gone. We got 5 minutes.
Okay.
5 minutes left. How
we
are
are
doing?
just in profit at £12 now.
Okay, so you're the only profitable trader.
I know, but 5 minutes is a long time in trading. So.
Yeah, I mean you can step out of the market and just end it there.
Well, I'm tempted, but that would be the abiding sin, isn't it? To close out. My DAX is not too bad. It's about £20 up, but
okay, brilliant.
Yeah,
I think everyone who's had a go has had a go on the DAX.
Oh really? Oh,
yeah.
I should have picked something else.
Yeah, everybody likes the DAX, but I think the US has just opened. I think if we'd been doing it in the afternoon, we would have had a few more people trading Nvidia and Tesla and those things. So, what's your view? Actually, that's a good topic. What's your view on the? I'm not going to call it an AI bubble because
it's not a bubble.
No, because there's a lot of chat about P ratios being well below bubble territory.
Yeah, exactly.
How far do you think has that got to go?
I think it go a lot further than people think. I think what you're seeing is maybe the moving from the initial AI adopters and the people behind the chips and stuff to it's now the companies that will benefit from it.
Yeah.
Where are they going to find their upside?
It's absolutely the new robotics, isn't it? It's the new industrial revolution of.
To an extent, yeah. People go, it's 1999 all over again. It really isn't. These are different companies. They make money compared to what was the case.
They do.
Then.
And there's a proper. I think a lot's been learnt from the valuations of the past. And to be fair, as opposed to lastminute.com and massive bubbles like that, the demand, for example, for Nvidia's hardware is huge. I mean, I notice it with my computer. I mean, we use AI a lot, not for generating content, but just for things that in the past we would have had to employ someone to do. A lot of tasks can be automated, and I think the processing power used is immense.
Yeah, it's the efficiency angle that's so important, really.
17 minutes in, we've got three left.
It's still up about £30, so there we go.
£30, so there you go. You're winning.
Yeah. But, well, I don't like to say winning and losing because that's a bad line to use for trading.
That would be unfair. Okay, so look, I'll drop you back at I'll drop you back at HQ.
However close you can get.
If I don't manage to crash it. It's a bit of a maze getting there these days.
It really is
it?
now, round here especially.
I mean, we've gone the whole day without running anybody over or hitting a cyclist,
that's
so I think
good.
it's been a success.
Okay, I'm going to close these now and profit, if that's all right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's when you bank your profit and walk away. There's nothing worse.
Purely for the vanity element of actually making money.
There's nothing worse than overstretching or overtrading.
There you go. Grand total of £19.30.
There you go. So winning by quite a significant margin.
Well, there you go.
So top tips for traders. What would you say if you for new punters? Obviously, this is not financial advice. We're very aware that we don't know anybody's personal circumstances. This is guidance, opinion, and chat at best. So top 3 tips for traders. What would you say to anyone getting started?
Anyone getting started, take it slow. It's really not a marathon, really not a sprint. You don't have to learn it all overnight. Markets are always changing, and you need to understand the risk element, how quickly things can move. Yeah. So that's probably the most important thing. Always make sure you know where your risk is and how much you want to risk on a trade before you press the button. Yeah. Essentially, the risk will take care of itself. It's the upside or the potential that you don't know and you can't work out. That's the other thing. And try and probably stick to 1 or 2 things to start with, really. You don't have to trade loads and loads of stuff all at once. It's not about trying to find the exciting things too much.
Trade what you know. I think that's...
Yes, get to know a particular market as well.
And what about mistakes? What would you say is the biggest mistake that new traders make when they come in?
They over leverage, whether that's they put too much on the initial trade or say they make a trade and it moves in their favour and then they do a bit more and a bit more and before they know it, they've sort of jumped in far too quickly. I think it is and they trade too often. Everyone trades too often. I think they don't intend to trade too often, but you end up that way really. So really small position sizes and wide stops, and don't really get too stuck in with the small time frames. Don't have to. Take it really, really slowly, I think.
Okay. And has IG got anything in the works that we should be looking forward to?
Well, we've always tried to boost the educational offering, so we're working on really improving the academy, which is the education element, to really upgrade that, to give it a few more lessons across all levels of skill. Really, so that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's a massive thing as well. Do you notice a difference actually? Because I do remember talking to someone about this before, actually, one of your product guys, who was saying we can tell the traders who read the educational pieces and go through the courses, we can tell that they perform a little bit better. Do you? I suppose you can't see it for offline people, can you? If people go to an actual course versus doing the courses online, I suppose it's quite difficult to.
We can certainly see the ones that put stops on when they're starting out and trading, and obviously distinguishing the ones that don't.
Yeah.
And that often sets them apart, really, if they've got the awareness of managing their risk rather than jumping in straight away. That's one that separates a lot of the successful ones from the unsuccessful ones.
Okay, brilliant. Well, Chris, here we are back at HQ.
Fantastic, thank you very much.
Congratulations, you're our first profitable trader of the day. Let's take the phone so we can audit your
luck rather than
so
skill.
we can audit. There we go. It's official. Good job. So good effort by Chris there. He did very well. Our first profitable trader. £19 up. That'll get him a half decent pub lunch. If you think you can do any better, Google Good Money Guide Taxi Trading League, hail us down and we'll take you for a ride in the city.